4 of them were assassinated in office. 2 were impeached. 1 man was impeached twice. 1 resigned in disgrace. 1 governed from a wheelchair and never let the public see it. And 1 man lost the presidency, waited 4 years, then came back and won it again. These are the men who shaped the most powerful nation in human history. Some were brilliant, some were cowardly, some changed the world, some nearly destroyed it. This is every US president, from the very beginning until now. The presidency has been held by 47 men, 4 were killed in office. 1 delivered such a long inaugural speech in freezing weather that he was dead within 31 days. This is the most consequential job in human history, and not everyone who held it was ready for it. George Washington, 1st 1789 to 1797. Washington didn't just become the first president. He invented what a president was. The only man ever to win every single electoral vote. He set the 2-term limit, established the peaceful transfer of power, and stepped down when he could have ruled for life. That single act did more for American democracy than any battle he ever won. John Adams, 2nd 1797 to 1801. A founding father who helped draft the Declaration of Independence. First president to live in the White House. He avoided a war with France that his own party wanted, and paid for it with his presidency. Thomas Jefferson, 3rd 1801 to 1809. Jefferson wrote the Declaration of Independence and doubled the size of America in a single deal, the Louisiana Purchase of 1803. Over 800,000 square miles from France for $15 million. 3 cents per acre. James Madison, 4th 1809 to 1817. Father of the Constitution. His presidency is defined by the War of 1812, the only war in which a foreign power burned down the U.S. Capitol. James Monroe, 5th 1817 to 1825. Monroe declared the Western Hemisphere off-limits to European colonization. His era became known as the Era of Good Feelings, a rare period of genuine national unity. John Quincy Adams, 6th 1825 to 1829, son of John Adams. After losing re-election, he spent 17 years in Congress fighting slavery, more consequential after the presidency than during it. Andrew Jackson expanded democracy for ordinary Americans, and simultaneously ordered the forced removal of Native American tribes. Thousands died on the Trail of Tears. His face is still on the $20 bill. The debate over whether it should stay there has never been louder. Andrew Jackson, 7th 1829 to 1837, the original people's president, dismantled the National Bank, expanded voting rights, while signing the Indian Removal Act that drove Native Americans from their homelands at gunpoint. Martin Van Buren, 8th 1837 to 1841, founder of the Democratic Party. His presidency was destroyed by the Panic of 1837, one of the worst economic crises in U.S. history. William Henry Harrison, 9th 1841. Harrison delivered the longest inaugural address in history. 2 hours in freezing weather without a coat. He caught pneumonia and died 31 days later. The shortest presidency in American history was ended by a speech. Harrison is not the only president who died in office. 4 were assassinated: Lincoln, Garfield, McKinley, and Kennedy. 4 others died of natural causes while serving. Nearly 1 in 5 presidents did not finish their term alive or on their own terms. John Tyler, 10th 1841 to 1845, took over when Harrison died. His own party expelled him. Nearly his entire cabinet resigned. He finished his term alone. James K. Polk, 11th 1845 to 1849, set 4 goals before taking office and achieved all 4 in one term. Expanded the U.S. by over 1 million square miles. He was so exhausted he died 3 months after leaving office. Zachary Taylor through James Buchanan, 12th to 15th 1849 to 1861. 4 presidents in 12 years, each weaker than the last. Fillmore delayed the Civil War. Pierce accelerated it. Buchanan watched southern states secede and did nothing. Historians rank him among the worst presidents in history. He left the entire crisis to his successor. That successor was Abraham Lincoln. Lincoln was assassinated on April 14, 1865, just 5 days after the Civil War effectively ended. He had preserved the United States and freed 4 million enslaved people. Then he went to the theater. The timing of his death, at the exact moment of victory, is one of the most tragic ironies in the history of any nation. Abraham Lincoln, 16th, 1861 to 1865. Lincoln took office with 7 states already seceded. He fought a 4-year war at a cost of over 600,000 American lives, issued the Emancipation Proclamation, and won. 5 days after the Confederate surrender, he was shot at Ford's Theater. He died the following morning. Andrew Johnson, 17th, 1865 to 1869, became president after Lincoln's assassination. Opposed rights for freed slaves at every turn. Became the first U.S. president ever. Impeached, surviving removal by a single Senate vote. Ulysses S. Grant, 18th, 1869 to 1877. The greatest Civil War hero. Fought hard for black civil rights in the South. But his administration was consumed by corruption. Scandals he failed to stop. Rutherford B. Hayes through William McKinley, 19th to 25th, 1877 to 1901. Hayes won the most disputed election in history through a backroom deal. Garfield was assassinated after 4 months, dying not from the bullet but from his doctor's infected hands. Arthur surprisingly reformed the civil service. Cleveland served 2 non-consecutive terms, the only president to do so until a more recent figure made everyone forget that record. McKinley made America a global power through the Spanish-American War, then became the 3rd president assassinated in office. Theodore Roosevelt was 42 when he assumed the presidency, the youngest ever. In 1912 he was shot while giving a speech. He finished the speech before going to the hospital. The bullet remained in his chest for the rest of his life. He said the speech was too important to stop. Theodore Roosevelt, 26, 1901 to 1909. The most energetic president in American history. He busted monopolies, created the national park system, built the Panama Canal, and won the Nobel Peace Prize. William Howard Taft, 27th, 1909 to 1913. The only person ever to serve as both U.S. President and Chief Justice of the Supreme Court. He reportedly preferred the court. Woodrow Wilson, 28th, 1913 to 1921. Led the U.S. through World War I. Fought for the League of Nations. The Senate refused to join it. The 19th Amendment passed on his watch, giving women the right to vote. He suffered a stroke in 1919. And his wife quietly managed the presidency for 18 months. Warren Harding, 29th, 1921 to 1923. Calvin Coolidge, 30th, 1923 to 1929. Herbert Hoover, 31st, 1929 to 1933. Harding promised normalcy and delivered scandal. Coolidge let the economy boom and stepped aside before it collapsed. Hoover inherited the collapse, refused bold action, and watched unemployment hit 25%. Homeless camps across America were called Hoovervilles, named after him in contempt. Franklin D. Roosevelt was paralyzed from polio and never recovered the use of his legs. He was elected president 4 times. The press agreed not to photograph him in his wheelchair. He governed through the Great Depression and World War II, and remains the only president ever elected more than twice. Franklin D. Roosevelt, 32nd, 1933 to 1945. FDR took office in the Depression's depths, launched the New Deal, and led the nation through World War II. He died in office in April 1945, just weeks before Germany surrendered. Harry S. Truman, 33rd, 1945 to 1953. Truman dropped atomic bombs on Japan to end World War II. Rebuilt Europe with the Marshall Plan. Desegregated the U.S. military. Led the country into the Korean War. Left office deeply unpopular. History has been considerably kinder. Dwight D. Eisenhower, 34th, 1953 to 1961. Supreme Commander of Allied Forces in World War II. Built the interstate highway system. Enforced school desegregation. And in his farewell address, warned against the growing power of the military-industrial complex, one of the most prophetic speeches any president has ever given. Kennedy was 43 when inaugurated, the youngest elected president ever. During the Cuban Missile Crisis, he refused to launch a preemptive nuclear strike against his own military's advice. That decision may have saved civilization. He was assassinated in Dallas in 1963. The debate over what really happened has never stopped. John F. Kennedy, 35th, 1961 to 1963. Launched the Moon program, created the Peace Corps, and faced down the Soviet Union in 13 days that nearly ended the world. Assassinated November 22, 1963. Lyndon B. Johnson, 36, 1963 to 1969. Sworn in beside a bloodstained Jackie Kennedy. Passed the Civil Rights Act and Voting Rights Act, the most significant civil rights legislation since the Civil War. But Vietnam consumed and destroyed his presidency. Richard Nixon, 37th, 1969 to 1974. Opened relations with China. Ended Vietnam. Created the EPA. Then came Watergate. On August 9, 1974, Nixon became the first and only president to resign, walked out of the White House, gave a double thumbs up and was gone. Gerald Ford, 38th, 1974 to 1977. Jimmy Carter, 39th, 1977 to 1981. Ford was never elected to either office. He pardoned Nixon and never recovered politically. Carter brokered peace between Israel and Egypt but was broken by the Iran hostage crisis, then built one of the greatest post-presidential careers in American history. Ronald Reagan was shot 69 days into his first term. The bullet came within 1 inch of his heart. As surgeons prepared to operate, he joked, "I hope you're all Republicans." He survived. He was 69 when he took office, the oldest president at that time. He governed for 8 more years. Ronald Reagan, 40th, 1981 to 1989, transformed American conservatism, cut taxes, and stood at the Berlin Wall demanding it come down. It fell the year he left office. George H.W. Bush, 41st, 1989 to 1993, presided over the fall of the Berlin Wall and collapse of the Soviet Union. Drove Saddam Hussein out of Kuwait in 100 hours of ground combat. Lost re-election to a recession. It's the economy, stupid. Bill Clinton, 42nd, 1993 to 2001. Longest peacetime economic boom in American history. Balanced the federal budget. Impeached for lying under oath. Acquitted. Finished his term. George W. Bush, 43rd, 2001 to 2009. His presidency was defined by one morning, September 11, 2001. The wars in Afghanistan and Iraq that followed lasted decades and cost trillions. The weapons of mass destruction that justified Iraq was never found. On November 4, 2008, Barack Obama became the first African American president, 143 years after the end of the Civil War, 45 years after Martin Luther King Jr. declared he had a dream. Voter turnout was the highest in 40 years. Barack Obama, 44th, 2009 to 2017, passed the Affordable Care Act, oversaw the operation that killed Osama bin Laden, won the Nobel Peace Prize, left office with his highest approval rating. Donald Trump, 45th, 2017 to 2021, won in 2016 against all expectations, cut taxes, appointed 3 Supreme Court justices, impeached twice, acquitted twice. Joe Biden, 46th, 2021 to 2025, the oldest president ever inaugurated, ended America's longest war, signed the largest infrastructure bill in history, became the first sitting president in modern times to withdraw from his own re-election campaign. In 2024, Donald Trump won the presidency again, only the second man in history to win non-consecutive terms. He had been impeached twice, convicted in a criminal trial, and survived 2 assassination attempts. Then he won again. His political story has no precedent in American history. Donald Trump, 47th, 2025, present. His second term, sweeping executive actions, America First, aggressive moves on immigration and trade, battles over the boundaries of presidential power. The story is still being written. That is every U.S. president, from Washington who invented the job, to the 47 men who have held it since. Some led the country through its darkest hours. Some created those dark hours themselves. Some changed the world. Some barely left a mark. Which president do you think made the biggest impact? Tell us in the comments below. Please like this video and subscribe. We cover the complete history of nations, leaders, and the events that shaped our world every week. We'll see you in the next one.